is by now
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with another rogue deck profile, and what I've started to think is with Konami potentially introducing a couple of new formats, some of these rogue decks that we're actually messing about with that just kind of go under the radar because of the oppressiveness of the metagame might start actually being a little bit more viable, and I just can't wait to play a few fun, rogue, casual, weird, janky decks at locals and actually get prizing for it and not being just absolutely stumped out by the meta. But anyway, you know what deck we're profiling today, which is Dream Mirrors. Now, Dream Mirrors actually got a bit of support in the new monster, Neuroid, the Dream Mirror Traitor, and he actually kind of mitigates some of the problems that the deck has. He actually searches for a field spell, he searches for his counterpart, and he can tribute a Dream Mirror monster and other than himself to be able to special summon a Dream Mirror monster from your deck, which is just super duper powerful. So definitely a 3 of, ladies and gents. Moving on, we have got his counterpart, which is Neuroid, the Dream Mirror Disciple. Sorry, the Dream Mirror Traitor was previous. Disciple is a free special summon if you control a Dream Mirror monster, and depending on what field spell you have in your hand, you got a variety of effects. You can draw one, put one back, or you can bounce a spell or trap card. Definitely extend that, definitely something you want to see. And messing about with this deck, it seems like a bit of a control deck, but I actually managed to get like probably about 6 or 7 monsters on the field in my turn 1. I was actually scared of getting the Virud, so you can combo off if you've got the correct link monster in your extra deck. Moving on, we've got triple Aikilos, the Dream Mirror Sprite. She's your searcher for any card in the archetype, so obviously we're going to max out on her. Typically you search her off of your Dream Mirror Traitor, so definitely a 3 of. She's always been a mandatory 3 of, to be honest. To be able to search spells, traps, monsters, you just can't miss it up. Next, we're playing 2 Mara. She used to be a 3 of, but now with the support, you don't necessarily need that many. She does come up, she does help the Scythe lock, to be honest, depending on how you're setting up. And if you didn't know, ladies and gents, this deck can actually Scythe lock your opponent, which is absolutely crazy. I'll leave a replay in the video at the end, and you'll be able to see just how it works. It's crazy. But definitely 2 Mara. Next up, for a little bit of recursion, we're running double Dream Mirror Friend. He revives from the graveyard, and if you didn't know, ladies and gents, all the Dream Mirror monsters have an effect that activate once they're special summoned from a Dream Mirror card. So being able to recur your resources out of the graveyard and then get their effects to proc is definitely something that I find valuable. So I've decided to go with 2 Friend. I've also actually added in just a 1 foe just as a counterpart, because along with a lot of the Dream Mirror monsters effects that special summon themselves via a Dream Mirror card, you can actually tag out into their counterpart depending on what field spell you have on the field. It is a little bit technical, to be honest, and the mirror match is just a horrible mess of just plays, and it's crazy. So I do advise you to try and play the mirror match if you do get an opportunity to do so. Next, for another 1 of, we're playing 1 Dream Mirror White Knight. He's more of a defensive card. It can actually come up depending on some of the other cards that you have in the archetype, but just a 1 of, you don't really want to brick with him, and he's not actually as proactive as his counterpart, which is double Dream Mirror, the Black Knight. He's actually a pop on summon. He's also 2800, and he can get a lot bigger than that depending on what card you have on the field, which I'll go through in a moment. But nevertheless, he's more proactive, and is typically you want to get him off your friend or off your White Knight, being able to tag out. You can actually search him off your Dream Mirror Traitor as well, which is just absolutely fantastic. So definitely a card you want to see. And next, I've gone with 1 Chaos Daedalus. Now this is typically one of the best decks to be able to utilize his effect. So previously I was playing the Chaos package, and I had in a few other of the Chaos cards, but I've decided to cut them. I've only left in Daedalus, mainly because he prevents targeting for your light and dark monsters if there are 2 field spells on the field, and also, sorry, if there is a field spell on the field. If there's 2 field spells on the field, he has an ignition effect to be able to banish up to 2 cards on the field, which is just absolutely crazy. He can bring himself out by banishing a light and a dark monster. So sometimes if you see him and you've gone through a lot of your plays, or you've got stuck somehow, you can actually bring him out and just be able to just obliterate the board, basically. So definitely a nice inclusion. This could be anything else. It could be Darkest Diabolos, which I'll go for at the end, as well as one of the other cards, but I like Daedalus, so I'm running him at 1. And for the only hand trap that we play in this deck, we are running the Gamma package. Mainly because a lot of your monsters tribute as cost, and sometimes you can end up with an empty field. Now this deck does die to any kind of interaction. Like I said, it is a rogue deck, so Ash Blossom stops this deck hard. Infinite Impermanence, Effect Failure, all that kind of stuff does basically stop your turn depending on your hand composition. So running the Gamma package just helps to mitigate Ash, which is probably one of the things you're going to see the most. Also allows you to go into Scythe Frame Lord, Omega on your opponent and be able to just rip a card out of their hand. And then obviously we've got the one Scythe. Now, like I said, it is a rogue deck. We want to do unfair things to be able to compete with the meta. So yeah, Artifact Scythe is that unfair thing. Next, for the spells, we have the 3 of, which is an obligatory searcher. This deck is super consistent, by the way. Dream Mirror Phantasms allows you to search for a Dream Mirror monster on activation, and it actually increases your life points and decreases your opponent's life points, depending on the field spell. But you want to run 3. Again, this is just consistency, and it is nice to have on field because it actually separates you and your opponent's monsters by attack. So definitely a useful card. Next up, it's mandatory to play this, and when I first started playing the deck, this was part of the problem. You need the 3 field spells, and you need 6 field spells because you got light and dark. And now with the new Dream Mirror Traitor, you can actually filter out some of these from your deck, because previously what you would do is, if you manage to get one of these on board first turn, you would actually banish it for cost. To be able to set the other counterpart from the deck, and it's typically what you want to do because you don't want to end up bricking with this card. So being able to disciple them was a good thing, but now you can actually do that more proactively, as well as doing it with these 2 cards. You can actually search them, and I'm also running 1 terraforming just because your field spells that are that important. Next up, we have the double fusion spell. It gets into your extra deck, and it's kind of like what you want to see. One of your extra deck monsters is really good, actually. It's in the gate. So double Dream Mirror of Chaos. Typically you don't get through all 3 of these. It is a quick play, so you can summon it on your opponent's turn, but I've gone for 2, mainly because I didn't see myself using a 3rd one. The game was normally over by then, so I think 2's enough. And then finally we run 1 Core by the Grave, just because hand traps kill this deck. Next, onto the traps. So we do play traps because it is it's kind of like a mid-range control deck. It does spiral out of control very quickly if your opponent doesn't check this deck. 2 Dream Mirror Hypnagogia. So this basically sets field spells from your deck on your field and your opponent's side of the field. So you've got both field spells up to be able to basically use both of the Dream Mirror effects to tag out, basically. So definitely a 2 of. I was running it at 3 previously because your field spell meant that much, but now with the new support, you don't necessarily need to see that card as much. And then finally, we've got a counter trap and a bit of interaction via a non-targeting banish. This can out a lot of things, dragoons, anything that can't be targeted, basically. So just a nice tool to have, and it actually protects your Dream Mirror monsters from destruction. And then we've got the counter trap. Now onto the extra deck. This can be entirely up to you, ladies and gents. Like I said, I was playing the Chaos package previously, so my extra deck was slightly different, but nevertheless, we've got both the Dream Mirror fusion monsters. We've got the Earthling and the Tormentor. This is the light and dark counterpart to the 2 main deck monsters that we've recently got with new support. The dark one is actually a negate, and the light one actually pops a card when a Dream Mirror monster tributes itself, which is highly likely, to be honest. And it's kind of like your first turn play because you can pop your own card with this, hence the Scythe lock. And the dark one can actually tag out into the light one without having to have a fusion spell. So definitely a nice inclusion right there. And then next up, for some link monsters, we've got Relinquished Anima, because we've got a few link ones in here and it's just a nice surprise just to be able to take your opponent's monster. We've also got 1 Liner, the Light Charmer, and 1 Artifact Dagda. Say no more, we all know what these guys do. Also got 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Crushy, and 1 Nightmare Unicorn. Again, say no more, this is just basically utility, ladies and gents. And then for a few XYZs, because we do run a few ranked 8s in the deck, we've got Dingisu as well as number 68 Center from the side, Sky Prison. as well as Time Thief Redoer. This was a bit flexible spot, to be honest. You don't necessarily need to put Redoer in there. You can make him off the Dream Mirror foe and Dream Mirror friend, and he's a bit of an annoying monster. Basically, he just keeps disappearing and coming back and sniping the top card of your opponent's deck. He's actually my favorite XYZ monster in the game, so I just thought, you know what, put him in. And then finally, just for a little bit of spice, we've got 1 Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, as well as 1 Scythe Lord Omega. This is going second. If you manage to get Gamma-Wrath, you can actually Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend and just try and pop the whole board. It might not necessarily work, but it does bait in the game. And obviously you've resolved your Gamma. And then Scythe Lord Omega, just to put back a few things, because you do banish a few things for cost via your Daedalus, via your fusion spell. So just being able to put back one of your banished monsters is just a utility in itself. And that is it, ladies and gents. I will leave you with a short clip of me Scythe locking my opponent. But before we go, a couple honourable mentions. Like I mentioned previously, we've got Darkest Diabolos, which can actually special summon himself out of the graveyard if you tribute a dark monster, which happens a lot in this deck, which I was previously playing. As well as one of the newer cards that was released recently, Chaos Nectathis. Again, if a card on your field is destroyed, you can summon this card out of the graveyard. It doesn't banish itself when it leaves. You have to banish a lot in a dark monster, but when it's special summoned, you can banish up to 2 cards on the field, which is just crazy. So you can actually include these, ladies and gents, and something that I might even mess about with if I do eventually get a chance to test this deck IRL. So yeah. But anyway, ladies and gents, I will leave you with the replay. And as always, if you did like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff. And I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.